Welcome, everyone. This is David Morgan of theMorganReport.com, and I have Chris Rice. I think it's Rice TV. You can correct me, but Chris has dealt in the crypto space for quite some time, and from my perspective, he's a realist. He's not too hypey, and he's not, and he's willing to call things out when he sees, let's say, the consensus going one direction when the truth or reality or facts point a different direction. So I admire you for that, Chris. Let me just ask you to go ahead and give a background. I think this is only the second time that you've been with me. So my channel has, like your channel, a certain set of followers that hardly miss anything that I do. And then there's always new people. And of course, with connecting with you, some of your people will come on and say, what the hell's David Morgan? So give us a who's Chris Rice, and we'll move from there.
All right. Well, thank you. I really appreciate the invitation to come on my show or come on your show. My channel is called RiceTVx. You were close. A lot of people call it Rice TV because they're kind of like, why is the X there? But there's already a channel that was called Rice TV. That is an Asian-based channel, of course. So I couldn't take that name, that particular brand. Now, myself, when I first started out, when I started my YouTube channel, I started it in January of 2018. And I was originally using the brand name Rice Crypto. And I was very much talking about cryptocurrency from a cypherpunk style mentality, from the libertarian people that first got involved in crypto, that kind of standpoint. And then also teaching people about economics and talking a little bit about politics. It was around 2020 that I started restructuring my channel and adding in different elements. So now I rebranded to RiceTVx. I have 3 shows on one channel. The Rice Crypto Show covering crypto and blockchain and technology. The Rice Report, which you appeared on, deals with economics and politics and current events. And then Stranger Than Fiction, dealing with fringe topics, going down the rabbit hole of conspiracies, some of the things that you like to do on your channel as well. So that kind of gives a little bit of a description of me as a content creator. I'm very much into freedom and sovereignty, and that's kind of the overall focus of what I deal with my content. I'm definitely not one to try to blow smoke up somebody's direction. I speak things for how I see them and how they are, because we need more of that kind of truth in today's world.
We do. And, you know, I mean, I've never claimed to be perfect. I'm human, and sometimes I make an error, and someone like you might correct me, and I'll correct and continue, right? If I get better data, you know. But so I'm going to start with this. I'm going to get your impression of Bitcoin, but I'm going to do a long preface. And this comes from one of the more well-known channels on the internet, but I'll skip around. I'll try to get the idea here. So Bitcoin began in 2008 as an idealistic mission to decentralize money away from governments. Something that remains little known to most is that Satoshi Nakamoto actually cited the Bob Rubin trade, which you can look that up, folks. You know who Bob Rubin is. It's my generation. He was a Secretary of the Treasury. He was a strong dollar policy. And so I digress to come back. In the genesis of a block of Bitcoin, Bitcoin was fundamentally designed to be a financial ejector seat to the woes of the modern capitalism. So that's a mouthful. So let me go on and just say it more directly. The idea was we have decentralized money. It puts the power of money back into people's hands. And initially it was, you know, autonomous, you know, it could be private, be secure, be immutable. The blockchain, the whole thing about the blockchain is once you're on there, you can't get off. So everything is very transparent. So all these features resonated with me, and I'll say with you. I don't like to speak for others, but you know, the libertarian mindset that, you know, we want more freedom and less government, you know, is an idealistic way to look at it. And, you know, what I strive for my whole life, basically. So when it first came to the fore, it sounded good, but I was lucky enough or unlucky enough to know that it looked like from the initial start, it had some tie to the NSA. And I learned that from a researcher that works for me that showed me the white paper. And then on top of that, Richard Grove, who does a channel that's libertarian oriented as well. So I was a bit skeptical from the first. So I said all that, and I'm getting to you, Chris. I think with looking at the progression of Bitcoin, no matter what the vision was from Satoshi in the beginning, it's kind of been hijacked. I think the MasterCard people pretty much run it. There's a lot of whales. It's not distributed evenly across the spectrum. The elites or the whales own most of it. The little guys made money in it or lost money in it. I don't think it's a solution. I think it's a protocol. I don't think it's an asset. I think it's gold 2.0, not gold 2.0, not. I mean, I've got 24 karat gold sitting here on my desk. And what is Bitcoin? It's 0 karat gold, right? 0 karat gold. So my pretty where and I'm not anti-blockchain. We're going to get to that later in the interview, but give me some feedback on your metamorphosis or your progression with Bitcoin. Loved it, hate it, still love it, don't like it. What do you think about this? Because it's been a journey and it's been the leader, but the leader's got clay feet, I think. What do you think?
Those are all really good questions. And before I answer, something that you were saying before you asked a question was talking about taking in new information. And we always have to be open to being able to change our minds on things that we've researched based off of new information. We can't be stuck in a certain way because we said something publicly. I think one of the things that shows growth as us as individuals is being able to challenge what we think we know and being able to solidify that. Now, Bitcoin, the idea of Bitcoin, the idea of Satoshi Nakamoto's white paper is a beautiful thing. What Bitcoin has become is something different. But that doesn't take away from the technology. That doesn't take away from the future. And what I mean by that is there's lots of different cryptocurrency and blockchain projects. We will be, and you've seen so much growth in technology and change in technology that we're at such an early stage in cryptocurrency. So the creators of what's going to be the be all end all or the future of cryptocurrencies are being inspired now or are building now. Now, Bitcoin itself, I mean, it is kind of a dinosaur when it comes to the technologies, but it is the most secured network. It is the most decentralized network as far as looking at all the different projects, and it is the most distributed with the decentralization. Now, Bitcoin has been kept limited, in my opinion, kept throttled on purpose. Instead of improving the block size or improving the code, there are entities that are creating solutions so that they can profit off of this. And some of these entities would be like your Lightning Network, which has a lot of your traditional finance legacy 1.0 investing in it, your Visas, your MasterCards, your Bank of Americas and such. And then Blockstream. Blockstream has Liquid, their Liquid sidechain. So you have a sidechain and a second layer solution type deal. And they're both hiring Bitcoin core developers. So there's not really a office or a CEO or anyone to pay the Bitcoin core developers to improve Bitcoin. In the early days, the incentivization was the value of Bitcoin going up. But now that we're at points where Bitcoin has hit, higher numbers from the creation of Bitcoin, it's kind of changed that perspective. So Blockstream and Lightning Network are able to hire the Bitcoin core developers to work on solutions that fix the problem temporarily that allowed them to profit. It doesn't fix Bitcoin, which is why I know you talked about this on previous episodes. The Bitcoin hard fork that took place in 2017, it created Bitcoin Cash. And then later in 2018, from the Bitcoin Cash hard fork that created Bitcoin Satoshi Vision, amongst the plethora of other forks of the technology. But those are the ones that are mainly recognized. I think you mentioned the NSA thing too. There was a white paper that came out by the NSA sometime in the 90s called How to Mint. Now, it is possible that the NSA or governments had something to do with the creation of Bitcoin. But here's the thing that I've started to realize, and something that you may agree with, is the world isn't so black and white or so blue and red. So you're going to have dualities in everything. So maybe the people in the NSA that created these technologies, if that were the case, did this for good reasons because they knew what was happening. They could see. I mean, the writing has been on the wall since the Federal Reserve got into power. And considering everything that's taken place just since 1971, I'm sure in my mindset there's good people in this world and in all structures of life. So with that being said, I feel like there's good people within these organizations. Another thing that you may not have put in perspective or thought about, David Schwartz, who's I think chief technical officer at Ripple. He's one of the higher ups, one of the creators. He actually worked for the NSA in the 90s, and he's a cryptographer.
Yeah, I like that perspective. It could be somebody that's sort of on our side, more libertarian or freedom oriented, and their boss says, "Oh, we're going to do this because we want to control it," and the person that actually did the work usually doesn't get the credit. I'm trying to be facetious. I've worked in the industry for a while, and they know the unintended consequences is more freedom, not less.
Well,
And
something.
so
I
that,
don't mean to interrupt. There's something I want to share real quick that I heard today, actually, and we're recording this on the 7th of July, and I can't remember which country it was, but they're talking about utilizing Bitcoin. It is a Muslim-based country that deal with Sharia law, and they don't deal with debt-based systems. So that's one of the reasons why you find a lot of complications in the Middle East with our international banking system. But they're talking about adding Bitcoin because it's not debt based, which is a really powerful thing that people don't think about when we look at our fiat system, our fractional reserve banking system, and how that it's all based upon debt. Sorry for interrupting, but I thought that was something really cool to add.
do it anytime. So, I'm probably known as a bit of a Bitcoin basher. I don't mean to be. I do think it's, without it, where would we be? I mean, honestly. But really, the truth of the matter is I'm more concerned about Tether than I am Bitcoin. I don't think Bitcoin's going to go away. I do, but I'm worried about the main backer of Bitcoin, which is the Tether. They've been a little shady, can I say that word, as far as being upfront with, what the reserves are, what their cash is parked in, if there's anything of a tie to Evergrande, all that stuff that I brought up in the Crypto Conspiracy series that you were part of, that made me reevaluate just how solid is this. It's only as good as, its ability to be exchanged back into a US dollar at some point or another currency. In other words, the liquidity factor and the trust factor. If those start to break down, then we really got a problem. And that's not Bitcoin's fault. That's, say, Tether's fault. So what's your latest thinking on Tether?
It's a good question because, I mean, there's a lot of speculation going on right now about, like what you said, what's really backing Tether. Is there a one-for-one backing? Is there anything close to it? Now, not to defend Tether, but we're talking about it being backed by US dollars, which is backed by nothing. So it's kind of ironic that we're asking for backing for a monopoly version of a coin, a cryptocurrency. But okay, so we have the two biggest stable coins right now that most people are familiar with are USDT, Tether, and USDC, which USDC was created by Circle Invest, that was backed by Goldman Sachs. They partnered up with Coinbase. One of the gentlemen that used to work with Steve Mnuchin over at One West Bank, it's a guy named Brian Brooks. Actually, three guys from One West Bank went over to the Treasury. But Brian Brooks, before he went over to the comptroller position in Treasury under Mnuchin, took a chief legal officer position over at Coinbase. And they were working to develop USDC. Now, USDC is 100% audited, backed one for one. Every dollar counts for everything that you see in the supply of the USDC token. That represents a dollar. They're very compliant because of the fact that it's Goldman Sachs based, it's Coinbase, so they're being very transparent about everything. Tether is a completely different situation. Tether was the very first stablecoin to exist. I commend Tether for a lot of what they've done to help the industry because we definitely needed to have something that represented a dollar instead of people just trading straight crypto to crypto. They had some legal problems back with, it's been kind of escalating for a few years, that resolved about a year and a half, 2 years ago in New York. And it was questions of ties with manipulation of the market, what's backing Tether. And for the longest time, Tether wasn't on Coinbase. Tether won that case. They started being transparent, showing some information about what was back in their coin, and they've been added to Coinbase. Like I said, about a year and a half, 2 years ago. Now it's coming into question with everything that's happening around the world with the Evergrande situation, the Terra Luna situation. Where are the funds that Tether has? Where are they being utilized to back up the Tether? Are they investing in Chinese real estate that's being defaulted? Are they investing in, did they have any of their funds staked in Celsius or Voyager and are going to lose those funds? So it is a question. Now, I don't think that the Tether cartel situation is going to just end right now unless stablecoin regulation came into play. Then I'm not quite sure what would happen. I'm not going to say that it's not backed by anything. It is backed, but whether or not it's got a 1-for-1 backing, I don't know. Now, it could be, if people don't take this time with what's been going on with Celsius, Voyager, the question of insolvent exchanges, if people aren't taking this time to get their stuff off of these centralized entities and knowing what's going on with Tether transferring to something like USDC. A lot of people that I know, David, are doing that. People that have been holding Tether are just simply trading their Tether out for USDC. So if you get yourself in a better position to do that, that's what I would recommend. But on the same flip note, Tether is dominating the industry when it comes to stablecoins. They're on multiple blockchains, which USDC is only on the Ethereum blockchain that I'm aware of. There may be a few EVM, Ethereum virtual machine compatible chains that it's working with because of the EVM capability. But I see another big push in all the markets before we see any kind of pop. And when we see that next pop kind of happen is when I see the downfall of what Tether's doing if they don't legitimize themselves and get 100% 1-for-1 backed. Sorry for the long answer, but hopefully that explains.
Now we're having a conversation. You're a deep thinker. Express yourself fully. So when you say pop, you mean pop to the downside? I mean, I'm looking. I don't have a crystal ball. John Perez and I talked about it. John has a target, and mine was under 30 and under 20, and we've been under 20 slightly. I think it could go to 10, but no one knows. But do you think there's more downside ahead of us?
I think in the short term, like over the next maybe the rest of this year, possibly, but I think that we're going to see more upside before the entire market as a whole implode. There's still going to be like another leg up in the stock market. There's still going to be another leg up in crypto. We're going to begin a bull market. We've got too much going on politically for everything just to crumble right now. So midterm elections is going to change a lot of perspective of how the Federal Reserve is interacting, what they're doing with rate hikes and things to that effect. So there's a lot of, and then 2 years later, we're looking at the presidential elections, which really aren't 2 years later. That's just when the next president takes office. So between midterm elections and the presidential election, I don't see the Democrats trying to allow for our country to be in a worse economic situation than we are currently. So I feel like they're going to do everything they can to inflate the market. So we'll see the Federal Reserve reverse course. And once they reverse course, the bull market will take off. And then we talk about these great resets. We know that we're at the end of a fiat cycle. That will end it, in my opinion. I think we're going to be going down in the short term, and I don't see Bitcoin going below, just from my research and interviewing people and talking to people, I don't see it going below 12K.
Okay, fair enough. All right, so let's transition into what you just said. I'm pretty much in agreement. I actually have gone on record already, and of course I could be right or I could be wrong, that at the end of July here, when they have their next meeting, that they're going to pause. They're not going to raise another 75 basis points. And they'll just say, hey, we need more data, the Janet Yellen trick. We need to look at more data. The economy's still inflation's not under control, but it's actually a little less than it was on our last report. And gas prices have calmed down some, and oil's not as bad as we hear by JP Morgan with their $300 and $380 oil, and yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. We're not going to raise. We're going to wait. I think that would be a catalyst for the market to take off, because once the powers that be or the financial elite saw that, that's a time to start pumping into the stock market again. Crypto would follow. Yeah, probably more likely it would. I mean, there's a high correlation in the NASDAQ and Bitcoin, as you well know, Chris. So, but eventually, so let's go with that scenario. You don't have to agree with me, but just play along with me.
Well, are you saying though that this coming in the next week or so that the Fed won't do another rate hike in the next week?
I think it comes the end of July. I don't think it's next week, but you may know better than I.
I think it's the middle of the month that they have the FOMC meetings.
Could
But don't quote me on it.
I'm saying the next one they'll pause. I'm guessing, of course. Anyway, let's just go along with that. So this puts a new setup. I think this is where it's that last straw that breaks the camel's back. Let me explain. If the Fed does a pause, or better yet, says we've gone far enough, we're going to start lowering, then the markets are going to say, well, the US of A is never going to get this debt bomb under control. I better spend this money as fast as I can. So all that money that's gone overseas for so many years is going to be repatriated. It's going to come back in back to America, and they're going to buy everything they can. They're going to buy T-shirts. They're going to buy lunch boxes. They're going to buy thermos bottles. They're going to buy anything that they can buy before that currency devalues further. So that's going to be the switch that's going to take crypto higher. It's going to take stocks higher. It's going to really take the metals higher. So I'm going to come back to the metals, but that's the way I see it. Do you think that I'm correct that we're near that point where the market finally says, look, these US of A financial markets are never, ever going to pay back the debt. All they're going to do is keep printing. And because of that, I must take action.
Well, okay, so I don't think that the Federal Reserve, I think that the Federal Reserve, when it comes to the next rate hike, are going to bring another rate hike into play. Just because of the amount of inflation that we have. They have to look proactive. They've already kind of put enough of a information out to the market that there's going to be a 75 basis point rate hike, just like there was before. Now, we still have August, September, and then I don't believe they have anything scheduled in October. It would be August or September that I feel like they would either reduce and maybe just do like a 50 basis points or 25 basis points, or not raise it. But it's not really until the Federal Reserve completely reverses course, in my opinion, that we'll start seeing that hyperbolic run up. And what I mean by that is continuing to their purchasing of their buyback of stocks and bonds and such, more stimulus, because we have the gas crisis, energy crisis, all that going on, the fuel, all that's kind of coming into play. There's talks of the government holiday when it comes to the tax for fuel and things to that effect for the everyday citizen. So being that inflation is getting worse, it doesn't seem to be getting better. And the Federal Reserve is trying to show face and act like they're doing something to fight what's happening. But then the flip side to all this is they've taken the entirety of the stock markets, commodities, cryptocurrency, and they devalued everything. And I've watched some videos from George Gammon recently that made some really good points. Devaluing everything to the point that they can manipulate the CPI numbers to make it look like they're doing something when they're in fact not really doing anything at all. And ultimately the real question is, why do we have faith in the Federal Reserve to fix the problem that they created in the first place?
Sure. Well, I don't, as you know. But so to clarify my position, first of all, I am usually a little early. So, whether I'm right or not remains to be determined. Odds are not in my favor. Odds are that they will raise. The other part is they don't have to reverse for the market to sense it and take off. Markets usually anticipate. So they wouldn't have to say pause or even lower for the market to sense. And I actually, Chris, think it started I really believe that the run to gold has begun. If you look at the amount of physical that's come off the COMEX, you look at the LBMA, you look at what the banks have done over the last 11 years, you look at some of these smaller countries that have bought massive amounts relative to their foreign exchange. It's not a lot of gold relative to big bank, but relative to their country and their foreign exchange position, it's huge. So I think it started, but it hasn't got to the point where we've hit the acceleration phase where all of a sudden you can't ignore it. Gold's going up 30, 40 bucks a day, that type of thing. And I do think we'll get there. So when this next phase takes place, I think you're in agreement with me, where the markets are pumping up. Where do you see gold and silver in that scenario?
While we have a kind of a bull run going on in the stock markets and such, I feel like it'll be traditional. You won't see as much growth going on in precious metals because you're seeing more money going into other markets, other commodities. Now, ultimately, I mean, and I'm sure you agree, and everybody listening to this will agree, that the price of all precious metals, gold, silver especially, are being completely manipulated by the paper derivatives trading. If you go to a physical dealer, you're not going to get an ounce of gold or an ounce of silver for the price that's listed as a spot price. You're going to be paying premiums on that because even the people at the stores with the physical stuff know that it's more valuable than what the markets are saying based off of the manipulative paper trading. So it's not really until we see the dollar start to really lose its strength, which right now the strength of the dollar I feel is going to be its downfall. The dollar is bullish right now, but it's manipulated to be bullish. And when we start seeing a decline in the dollar, then I think we'll start seeing more people, because unfortunately people just don't think, the majority of people just do not think ahead. They wait until SHTF.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, if people were smart, they would be doing things to be taking steps and not get into a situation where it's like they're not sure how they're going to be able to do what they were planning on doing in the first place. I mean, it's really smart right now to invest dollar cost average into anything that you believe in, whether it's precious metals or cryptocurrencies, real estate. I'm a big, strong proponent of crypto and gold and silver.
I don't know if you had the chance to watch it. It's not about me. It's about the idea. But I did an interview with Stansberry Research some time ago about bail-ins. And this is something that, people have asked me and probably asked you as well. It's like, well, I've got X amount in the bank. I really haven't made a lot of investments. I'm a business owner and I got to keep a high cash position, and yet you're telling me that the law says that they can bail in and I could lose, some or part of my savings. And what do you do? And the answer is you move it into real money. That's the best answer. Now, I'm biased because I've been a hard money, honest money guy for a long time. But the other answer would be, all right, just go to US dollars and get them, take them out in the wheelbarrow. The problem is you can't do that very easily. You've got to if you're going to get more than like 5,000, depends on the bank, depends on your relationship with the bank. But generally speaking, if you want out more than $5,000 in $100 bills, you're going to have to let the bank go find it and bring it, and then call you back, come to the bank, we have it. If you want to take out something like 100,000 or 250,000, I know a lot of people don't have that amount, but there are people that do. And they don't want that exposure in the bank so they can put it under their mattress. Well, you can't get out of the bank to put it under your mattress, but you certainly could make a phone call to a precious metals dealer and say, I want 250K, what's your markup? Oh, it's 25%. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, I want it anyway. And turn that paper with a wire transfer or a check into real money. What's your thoughts?
I agree with you, but I think they're going to make things like that a lot more difficult. I mean, as you can see, I mean, just trying to withdraw money from your bank, from your normal bank account situation, people are having problems with, giving limitations to how much they can take out, how often they can take out. Another example, not sure if you heard about this, but this just happened a few days ago, maybe the end of last week. Peter Schiff, his Euro-Pacific Bank was suspended by Puerto Rican authorities, regulators.
I put on my Twitter.
And that would be a really good example of why we could benefit from something like cryptocurrency, because had it been something that he had control of without having to rely upon a third-party intermediary, he would still be in control of his funds in that sense. Also, another example, too, is like people in Ukraine that were trying to leave, that were trying to take their wealth with them, but they couldn't travel across the to a different country with gold and silver and things like that. So they were using cryptocurrencies.
You know, I'm biased because I'm an ambassador for Load. I've been with it pretty much from the general first idea, and we've implemented it. And I say we because I've invested in it. But what do you think of that hybrid where you've got gold on your phone, so to speak? I mean, with Load, we had a guy in Australia, similar to what you just outlined in Ukraine, had a pretty high net worth, couldn't take gold on the airplane. So he purchased Load, moved, has a new jurisdiction and a new citizenship, and was able to retrieve his physical out. Was there downside to it? Yeah, there's a price, movement, and also there's a premium any way you go. I mean, the only way you get gold at spot is you dig it out of the ground and put it in your back pocket. But I thought that was really kind of cool because there's some people that obviously need to get their wealth out of Dodge and themselves and their families, and yet it's difficult. And although you can travel with massive amounts of gold on an airplane, I haven't done massive amounts, but I've done substantial amounts, and I didn't know what to do. But I talked to my coin dealer buddies, and they explained how you do it. But it's not easy. It's kind of cumbersome. It can never had a real big snag, but you got to ask for a private room. I've got something valuable. I'll show you privately. Blah 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 blah. You go in and let the authorities come in, and some are very nice, some aren't. Can I touch it? Of course, yeah. Touch my gold, touch my silver. Okay, you're good to go. But what you don't want to do is not say anything when you go through that security checkpoint. You've got over 10K worth of precious metals. Now you're setting yourself up for probably a bad day. Anyway, the idea of putting it on the immutable blockchain and be able to travel anywhere, and it's only you and your phone and your password, pretty cool idea. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think it's a great idea, especially if we could be dealing with, and I know there are some situations like this and projects that exist like this, but I'm not going to mention any because I don't feel that any of them have done this to the best degree. But even having something like a gold or silver backed cryptocurrency, because then in that situation, you could take your gold and silver and exchange it for these tokens. And then if you go to another location, you can then redeem your tokens for the physical item. So it's kind of, sorry, and I like that idea. I think that would be, Tether has a gold backed coin, but I can't say that Tether's gold backed coin is 100% backed one for one the way it's supposed to be. So that's the transparency would have to come into play with something like that. And then that's where blockchain technology comes in, because you can utilize a blockchain for supply chain purposes. So that way you can record what's being used to back up said assets. You can have camera systems with 24-hour surveillance where people can monitor and view this. You can see the gold bars that have numbers on them. You can look on the blockchain and make sure that all those things correspondingly match like they're supposed to. So there's a lot of benefits to the technology. When I mentioned dualities earlier about good guys and bad guys being involved in situations that everything not so black and white, same thing with crypto. Crypto can be used. It's a tool.
Sure.
So when people think about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency as just being evil in and of itself, that's really ridiculous, because it's the people who use the technologies that make it being for a positive or negative use case.
Yeah. Just like the gold standard. I mean, I got a lot of pushback on one of my speeches early on that gold standard's hocus pocus, it doesn't work. Gold's immutable. It's by itself. It's a fungible asset. It's rare. It's on the periodic table. People have adapted to it and voted by themselves. They want it as superior money.
Well, it's proven itself.
It's the human element. It's the good cop, bad cop that changed the parameters, that they were printing up more pieces of paper than there was gold to back it up. Well, that's called cheating. It's called fraud. It's called counterfeiting. And so that's not gold's fault. It has nothing to do with the gold standard per se. It actually proves the gold standard works because the purpose of the gold standard is you don't overprint the one-to-one correspondence between an ounce of gold and the value of the currency.
Right.
Of course, that's been abused many, many times, as we both know. That's what the blockchain is such a superior element, because at least in theory, you can't do that. The blockchain's got every one there recorded, and you can't, go in the back room and print up more receipts and stick it on the blockchain.
Right. It's an accounting system that you can't go and alter the numbers. What you see in on the ledger is what it is and will always be.
We've gone as far as I want to stay pretty much on the monetary side. So is there anything like, at the tip of your tongue that you've been looking at in, let's say, the recent, few weeks that you really want to broadcast out to my audience? Because I respect your knowledge and your straightforwardness and the way you look at the markets. So let me give you the floor to just kind of open it up to you and take it away.
Well, thank you. Now, I mean, just like yourself and many others, I don't give financial advice, so I'm not really going to be telling people about specific projects in cryptocurrency. But when you're in a bear market situation, these are the opportunities that really can make millionaires, billionaires, make it generational wealth if you're able to make the right decisions and do the right research. So what I really encourage people to do is take this time and really do deep dives on projects that you're interested in getting involved with, and make sure that you're coming up with a good strategy that works for you. Never invest more than you're willing to lose, period. When it comes to exchanges, if you're not actively trading, then don't actively leave your funds on the exchange, or don't put anything on an exchange that you're not willing to lose. And then the other thing is, too, a lot of people get depressed when the markets are down and their portfolios start to go down in value. Take this time to really enjoy life. Go outside, do things, get your mind off of the markets. Don't pay full attention. When I first got involved in crypto, that's one of the things that I was doing, was driving myself crazy looking at the markets constantly. And then after being in the markets for so long, now I feel very comfortable with what I'm dealing with. I don't look at the charts as much, and I'm able to work on my mental health. And I guess that's the one thing I'm trying to tell people to do, is focus on their mental health. If you're doing research on projects and doing strategies, you're going to cause yourself not to have problems with mental health in the future. And if you're going outside, spending time with friends and family, you're going to be working on your current mental health situations to keep you in good spirits. And I think that the things that we can do to bring more positivity in our lives, the better. But these are the times that really can make or break people. So people just need to take all that in consideration. The dollar is on its last leg. This whole financial system is pretty much coming to an end. So I really encourage people to listen to people like David Morgan. I mean, I respect your opinion on a lot of things, and I appreciate having these conversations. People need to protect themselves. And there's lots of ways that you can do that, whether it's stocking up on non-perishable foods, water, security items, barter abilities, building, community building, getting involved in growing, being more self-sufficient, growing foods and things like that. I think it's just time to get back to being good human beings. And I really encourage people to take these steps, these times to do that, and really refocus on what you're doing in life.
Very good. So, Chris Rice of RiceTVx, how do people get a hold of you? How do they get more information? Do you have like a blog that you post, or is there a newsletter that they can get, or how do they get involved with you?
My newsletter is currently on pause because I'm looking for having a new website being built and hosted. So you can normally go to www.ricetvx.com and it will take you to my website, which will take place in the next few weeks. But in the meantime, it's just forwarding people to my YouTube channel. So you can find me on YouTube, RiceTVx. I encourage people to explore my channel. I've done a lot of really interesting high-profile interviews, including interviewing you. So I encourage people to just explore my channel. And if you want to follow me anywhere on social media, you can find me at RiceTVx. It's only one X in the other username that has more than one X or any sort of underscore or something like that is a scammer, and I ask that you please report those accounts. And then also I'm on Odyssey, Library, BitChute, and other video platforms, but YouTube just is the most popular and one that people use the most.
Great. Chris, a true pleasure. You already sharpened my thinking on just this one conversation. And I will leave you with the Chinese curse. May you live in interesting times. So
that we do.
There, I'm sure I'll have you back. I won't cut you off. If you have anything else to say, go ahead, but we'll close out.
That's it, really. I mean, I really think that today, more than ever, we all need to be the change that we want to see in this world. And the way that we do that is it starts with you individually, me individually. And the more of us to do this, the more that we can inspire others. And the more that we make change within ourselves, the more that we can change this world. And I have this saying that I try to manifest. And I say this as peacefully as I possibly can, that when enough people take a stand, nothing can stand against the people.
Love it. Very good.